Robertson the winner there by a narrow margin.
The textbook break-off shot, cue ball to baulk cushion behind the green. Neil Robertson, winner of 10 world ranking titles, including the 2010 World Championship. Joe Perry just with one first prize from a full ranking event, the Players' Championship last season. I think these two know everything about each other's game that there is to know, having practiced so much together. I think they will know what shots they will go for, what shots they will refuse.
In which case, Clive, it just comes down to on the day. And I guess more days than others, Neil might win, and he has done in the past. He's got a better CV than this man. Joe Perry won the Players' Championship, and that's the reason he's here. But Neil has won 10 ranking events. Incidentally, none of those got him into the event this year, the major ones. He won in Gdynia, which is a long weekend tournament. So he's not really been picking up the big trophies recently.
Hasn't in fact won a full ranking event since early last season, the Wuxi Classic. And that was the match in which he so emotionally beat Joe Perry 10-9 in the final.
Might have a big pocket here. The red near bottom right is placed such that the other one might go in easily. Yep. Absolutely as planned. I think he's on the black. Of course, you can see he's a bit close to the cushion if he is. It's very tight, actually. It's a real close one. I'm not so sure now I've seen it from that view whether he's on it.
The problem is getting past the red, which is between the cue ball and the black.
And even if he does, there's no follow-up red. That becomes easy with cueing from the cushion rail. So safety it is.
Neil Robertson won.
No, tricky red to middle at best, even if he had been able to pot the black. Missed that very much on the thick side, which is why the red returned into a possible position.
One.
Well, I think this is actually potable. I think the red isn't making it in the big pocket, but it could go in off the red. If he gets anywhere near, I'm sure it will drop just directly off that red that's next to the hole. Hard to refuse it as well. If he played safe, He leaves the red over the pocket anyway. Very accurate.
Eight. Nine.
Well, there's an event.
Neil Robertson, 9.
Robertson misses straightforward black from its spot.
I wonder if he was thinking about that cue ball missing the red. I think he was, maybe the cannon was on his mind. He forgot the obvious, which was the pot.
One.
Joe should take some confidence from beating John Higgins, which was back on, what was it, Wednesday now, in the group phase, last 16 and last 8 of this tournament, both played on the same day. And a win over John Higgins, something that he's not achieved very much. He'd lost, I think, 8 of 9 clashes with him. And the win was in the Premier League, which is a short format event that no longer exists. I'm sure he was really heartened by that win in a big event like this.
Nine.
It's hard to see how he could have got through there any further.
Joe Perry, 9. One.
Well, that was a great long pot. Robertson might have thought there was room to get the cue ball through other reds, but the important thing was he potted the red. Forced into it by Perry's safety.
Well, he hit the red like a dream, but not so well that shot. He didn't mean to hit the green ball on the way back. I thought it sounded like a kick, to be honest, without going into all of that, but he didn't sound like he got the best contact there, just by the noise more than anything else.
Cannoning the green like that was just about the only way he could go wrong.
Difficult to tell from that, but it didn't sound very good and didn't look great either. The result, anyhow, as you say, Clive, anywhere else on the table, there's something available to him. Well, is he going to play this plant? Goodness me, this is a very difficult shot. Wow. That's as difficult a plant as what you see, I think.
A lot of distance between the two reds.
I mean, obviously, in his mind was to just shift the red away from the pocket with that plant. That was part of it. So there was some method in it. Well, he'll get another chance now.
Yes. Perry swung round on his heel in annoyance the way he played that shot.
1.
Robertson, one of only 10 players to have won the so-called Big Three, albeit not in the same season. That's the World Championship, the UK
3.
and the Masters. Although when ITV's tournaments have been going a few more years, we might be into a Big Four or Big Five.
4.
Yes, I mean, this Champion of Champions is up there with how the Masters is. And obviously the Masters with a big history, and we've got great memories of the Conference Centre and Wembley Arena. Ali Pali, of course, it was played before that in London. It's got history. It's not got that much history yet, but you can only get in it if you win something. So where the Masters is the top 16 in the world, this is for all the winners. So there's a real element of prestige about it. You're just looking at the black spot and the play on it here. The black I don't think will spot on that as things stand. Pretty sure it'll go up on the highest available, which, unless I'm mistaken, looks to be brown. There is a little bit of room below the actual spot where the red is. Let's see.
Yeah, sure.
Does it squeeze on there? Referee Paul Collier with his ball marker deciding the brown is the highest.
The one thing a player is not allowed
80.
to do is to pull a ball out of a pocket and see for himself whether a colour may be respottable. I've never seen any player actually commit that offence. So I'm assuming they all know it's a foul.
19.
Wow, anything but going into the brown ball. Amazing those ball colours seem bigger than
24.
they really are actually when you're trying to avoid them through getting up and down the table. He just can't quite get this cue ball under control. He looks pretty sharp actually this afternoon. Knocked in some good balls already, but for some reason the cue ball is a little bit errant.
Robertson demonstrating one of his great strengths,
25.
his long potting.
I'm really pleased to see them going in because, as I was saying earlier with Alan before the match started, you know, that's always been a strength of his, and it's something we haven't seen a lot of. He's been taking a few on already in this frame, and they've gone in. That was a cruncher. That's not bad.
30. $31.
Just a red and a colour needed.
37. 38. $44. Neil Robertson, 44.
A successful double would have made ultra sure of the frame, but there's still a difference of 48 with only 43 remaining.
One.
Well, he didn't really want to play the brown from that red because he loses a couple more points, which would mean 2 snookers to tie, at least 2 to win if the pink goes in.
Seven. Joe Perry, 7.
That sounded very rocky. Not a clean contact at all. And another excellent long pot.
I was going to say, very encouraging signs, fans of Neil Robertson, all the long pots that have been knocked in, and that'll be enough.
One and the frame.
So Neil Robertson leads Joe Perry by a frame to 0.
Welcome back to the Champion of Champions and the opening semi-final between Neil Robertson and Joe Perry. Robertson has taken the opening frame with some impressive long potting. This is now the second. Commentary comes from Clive Everton and Neil Folds.
Oh, I think he's looking at pushing this red towards the pink and getting the cue ball in behind the red to the left. Not bad. Neil's been knocking in a few of these long pots, but the one he was interested in, he's hampered slightly by the green. So he's playing the one I think that takes him back up the table. And his percentage of those today is very high. I mean, he doesn't look in brilliant form, but make that 5 from 6 long pots already. Which tells me he's cueing well. Of course, you can't do much when the balls go awkward.
4. Five.
Well, he'd love to get this black on its spot, but when it does spot, the red that's out in open play, 2 up from there, might be covered. So he'll go the other side of the table, I think. That's a really good shot. That's so well played. And behind the red it goes. That side of the table.
12.
Just when you thought he was getting into a bit of rhythm there. Some nice shots to get in.
Robertson, 12.
Well, that was a bad miss in the end. Nothing much to do really with the pockets being tight. He was more or less right behind that ball.
One. Three.
Could have done with a more creative cannon there.
Joe Perry, 3.
But has to be content for the moment with a lead of 14 and a good safety. Intended to take the red to the side cushion.
That was a strange reaction. Both Neil and Joe there looked a bit bewildered by that. See that one again. Goodness. Jumped up in the air and stayed over the hole.
But he didn't pot it flush.
No, no, it didn't bounce out. It just did react slightly oddly, though, after it wriggled. Anyway, there's a couple more awkward shots. Certainly the red down the rail is key at this next point. And it's all about the angle he gets, and well, he's a bit close to this, but he can afford to drop it in, and he'll get position anyhow on the black.
8.
Again, there's an element of difficulty about it. It's a tricky little angle, especially when you're that close. But he has to play it. He has to give it a chance. He's gone to the bottom of the cue ball. He's using a little bit of speed. And that adds to the difficulty, and he stuck it.
Neil Robertson, 8.
Well, he played that as a screw shot because he thought that if he did leave the red over the pocket, it might be covered by the black. But it isn't. Left himself a little bit too close to that red, I think.
One.
So Perry, despite leaving the cue ball a different side of the baulk line and he intended, has a chance to clinch the frame with the early colours.
5. Seven.
Yes, just green and brown then. Very scrappy frame. It'll certainly get better. I think they're both in good form. He looks to be queuing well, but a bit of a spoiler of a frame, this one.
14.
One that Joe Perry is about to win.
An undistinguished frame of 31 minutes duration.
Joe Perry 19.
Joe Perry has won it to equalise at 1-all. Well, I say that. 2 snookers to tie. Certainly Perry didn't think there was any prospect of Robertson coming back to the table, because he played the pink, not being able to get his eye line right behind it. But anyway, the pink drops in, so it is 1-all.
Welcome back to this opening semi-final in the Champion of Champions. Joe Perry has just levelled the score by taking the second frame. This is now the third.
Joe Perry 47.
Not a bad effort though. Attempted that difficult red running away, taking the cue ball to the side cushion, from which he could have clipped in the blue had the red dropped.
One.
It was just a simple 1-point run away. What he doesn't want is to get anything safe. He might, I mean, he could have considered developing the black, but I don't know really how that would ensure him keeping the red safe. He doesn't want to put a colour safe though in whatever he plays here. I don't think he can gain any huge advantage. I think if he could, he'd like to leave this in a position where Joe Perry could only see one red, and that would be the red on the left of the black. If he could snooker on the other red and make him play the red that's tying the black up, that I think would be the best he could do. Don't really see the point in that, personally.
Robertson 1.
Because if he missed it near Joe, he could have put the pink safe. Can't pass on one. That's about fine. I think that's probably the best he could have hoped for. It's a decent shot.
A trademark long pot from Robertson.
Shot of the match for me so far. Not that there's been that many great shots played, but this is wonderful cueing. And I think importantly, he finished top side of certainly the pink. he wants to play that, he could go into the red and black here. This would be as good a shot if he got this right. But is it on? He's not sure. I don't know if he's worried about going round the back of them both. Big shot, this one. If he gets this right, the frame could be his. Unlucky. You know, if he'd have flicked that black, Clive, it would have been probably the shot of the week. And it was closer than it maybe looked in the end.
7.
Yes, if he had managed to flick the black, I'm pretty sure he would have cleared up to win the frame. As it is, he's 24 behind with a nasty self-inflicted snooker.
Well, if he can hit this full on, I think from where he is, if he screws it, it'll remain a screw on the ball. But he could make things a bit difficult for Joe. Full ball contact he wants.
Neil Robertson, 7.
Well, it's a very thin one to the middle, but he has looked at the angle. It wasn't as thin as that. That could have worked out a lot worse. He'll be pretty delighted with that outcome after playing it too thin.
I think he would have thought it impossible to overcut it.
Okay, 24 the lead, but it just might turn out that whoever pots this red wins the frame, because there's really nothing else that's all that difficult at all.
Oh dear. Chance for Robertson to snatch the frame.
One.
I think this is a straight choice between putting the green or the brown here. The brown, getting the brown on its spot would be quite appealing, even though it's not in a bad position. Green, a stun across to get on the yellow is probably more difficult to pot, but both well within his compass. The only thing he's got to watch is when he pots the green, he doesn't want to get in
4.
in the way, the pink and black to get in the way. Something to think about for the next shot.
6.
As long as he can finish over towards the left of centre of the table, I think he'll be fine. Has to play to the right side. There is always the chance he'll snooker himself.
Nine.
That's why he played it in the way that he did.
13.
Again, a little bit in between. If it was straighter, he'd definitely play to the bottom, and he may still do that. Yep, he's got to get top spin on this to avoid the left middle bag or the jaws. And he's played it really well.
18.
It's been another awkward frame, but if Neil wins this, it'll be a real boost, I think, to his chances and the way that he's feeling. I actually think he's cueing well, but the few
24.
funny little shots that he's missed and a couple of nudges, it's a frame that he'll be delighted with. A real steal, this one, Clive.
31 the frame with Robertson.
Welcome back to the Champion of Champions and the opening semi-final between Neil Robertson and Joe Perry.
Frame 4.
Robertson has
Neil
just
Robertson
emerged from a tight third frame to take the lead. This is now the fourth.
So after 77 minutes play and 3 hard-fought frames, Neil Robertson breaks off, leading by 2 frames to 1. Perfect.
Yes, and big trouble as well, I think, Clive. He's quite a long way in behind that brown. Means he got a shot hitting quite deep into that cushion. Left cushion, I think, or right. But either way, it's twice across the table here. He'd love to get near them 2 reds down the bottom, in behind the black. But how do you get there? Here goes. I think this is probably where he tried actually to get in behind those 2 reds.
The problem that a player has playing out of snooker like that is that the first cushion seems to be square and the second cushion seems to be a slide.
I think that can only be based on how hard you hit the ball into the first cushion. Certain speed squares up and it slows down. On the second one, it slips down. It's very difficult. You're absolutely right. And players have found getting out of snookers really difficult this week. These guys hardly ever miss snookers, but there's been a few that have gone astray.
Six.
That's a good shot. He didn't play on that red,
7.
certainly not in that way. But he could reach it, which was half the battle as a left-hander.
14. $15. $22. $23. $30.
Two reds are a bit of a nuisance that are below the black. It gives him less shots from this side of that side of the table to avoid hitting them and getting onto the next red. I don't really think that was the angle he wanted though. It's just away from straight, above side of straight. That's okay. Choices now. Probably the top of the two reds close together to the middle,
38.
which brings the other one into the game.
$39.
If he were to cannon the left-hand edge of the left hand of the two reds, the other red would inevitably go towards the pocket.
$46. $47. Sure. 54.
Highest break of the match. Tells you that the standard up until then had been a bit up and down.
Yes, a lot of tactical play in the first three frames.
$55. $62. $63.
I guess you've got to be patient at this game, and if things aren't working out, you've just got to keep trying and plugging away until a little bit of fluency arrives. And I think we're at that point now with Neil Robertson, albeit he'll take a 15-minute break at the end of this frame, so That's where it'll end for the time being.
71. $78. $79.
The season before last, Neil Robertson made 103 centuries. He's the only player to make a century of centuries in one season. He started this week
86.
on a career total of 425.
87.
Well, you can see it's been a controlled
94.
break with 11 blacks and just one blue amongst the 12 reds. Suggests that he's always been at
95.
this end of the table, the business end of things.
$102.
145 on.
$103.
Which would make him favourite for the highest break prize if there was one. Possible 144 now as the pink disappears.
109. $110.
Low on the black, so the angle is a natural to get up for the yellow. If he's going to make a break of 144, he probably needs to get high up the table from yellow to green, and he's made sure of that.
119.
Good thinking. Makes position on the brown a lot easier being where he is.
$122. $126. $131.
Robertson patiently built a 2-1 lead.
137.
And in this frame, engaged overdrive.
As we go into the first interval, Neil Robertson has taken a 3-1 lead in this race from a field of 16 to head the cast list going into the semi-finals of the 188-bet Champion of Champions. His reward is a semi-final against Joe Perry. Perry saw off the challenge of Michael White and then the #1 seed, John Higgins. These two are now locked in a battle to make it to the last four. Kyron Wilson and Mark Allen make up the other semi-final, but the attention here in Coventry is on that opening semi-final in which Robertson has taken a 3-1 lead. After the mid-session interval, Joe Perry hit back, winning the fifth. Both had reasonable size breaks, but with just 19 points between them, it came down to a tactical battle. A foul by Robertson in answering Perry's snooker gave a free shot, and a chance to reduce the score to just a single frame. In the sixth, the tactical battle resumed, with penalty points contributing to Perry's score. But when the dust had settled, it looked like Robertson had done enough, but it all came down to the black, with just 4 points between them. Robertson eventually triumphed. We rejoin the action in the seventh frame. It's the best of 11. Commentary comes from Neil Folds and Clive Everton.
36.
I don't know. It's a similar thing happened in the previous frame. He
43.
played a little, what looks to be a fairly basic cannon, and he got it all wrong, and he's done the same.
Yes, made the cannon far too thickly. Thinner contact, and he slips by to take red to left corner.
Neil Robertson, 43.
So he has to stick on 43, 44 to 0. Still a reasonable start to this seventh frame, trying to increase his lead to 5-2.
One.
How straight is the yellow? Well, so straight that it doesn't look as if he can do much with it. Maybe he can just about put the yellow in one side of the pocket and run through off the other side of the pocket. Maybe getting the cue ball to where his cue is pointing there would be the best he could do.
It was absolutely dead straight. Yep, and he's got the red at the bottom. I don't know if those two reds make into a plant. Well,
3.
not far away. Looks like it's left jaw, so it hit the first red a little thin. Thinner than the potting angle if the other red wasn't there.
Four.
Possibility of significant counter-attack now.
Nine. Ten. Seventeen. 18.
19.
25. 26.
Just looking a little further down the line. If he is clearing up, he'll need deep into the colours.
33.
And yellow to green mightn't be that easy with the green below its spot and being hidden a
34.
bit by the brown, depending on where he finishes on the yellow. That's not for him to think about just yet, but it's going to come into his mind soon.
41. 42.
That was a very solid strike. He's on the blue with just the right angle. Let's see which way he goes here. Not straight. That's nothing. He does not want to be straight.
47.
Well, he's got an angle to just done across. Green into the same pocket.
Tuck.
Couldn't have played it a lot
49.
better. Very good.
Robertson was first in with 43.
56.
But lost position. And now Perry needs only the blue to leave Robertson needing a snooker.
He's taken these very well.
61.
He doesn't really look like missing to this point.
Well,
Joe Perry 61.
he was well enough on the pink. But Robertson's first task is to keep the pink out.
Neil Robertson 6, frame Joe Perry.
He couldn't do it. So in the end, Perry's 61 break was enough.
Welcome back to the Champion of Champions and the opening semi-final between Neil Robertson and Joe Perry. Robertson took an early lead, but Joe Perry fought his way back into this match, coming within a potted black of levelling the score. But it's Robertson who has kept the lead throughout. In this, the 8th frame, there's been little to choose between these two in the early exchange. Commentary comes from Clive Everton and Neil Folds.
Always helps when you've got a couple of balls in the bulk area that are close together. The pink and green became a big target for Neil to get in behind. There may be a tiny gap through the middle, actually. Paul Collier was having a look. The referee, of course, if he had to put them back, he'd be best place to do so.
Foul. Neil Robertson 4.
Too thick a contact. And worse still, has left a red on the pocket, albeit from distance. Robertson considering how difficult it would be to hold for black ball position.
1.
Such easy cue power to generate that amount of backspin from distance.
So many times today the balls have just nudged each other and gone awkwardly. There was a situation where he played a
8.
great shot on the red, cannon on the black, and now the break's over again.
Still early days in this 8th frame of a possible 11.
Neil Robertson 8.
Not one of Robertson's very best, that. Perry has unimpeded cueing. The cue ball isn't tight on the baulk cushion. So I wasn't all that surprised
1.
that Perry knocked that in.
Five. Six. Eleven. Twelve.
Can Perry cannon the 3 reds and retain position on the red already loose? Didn't have to.
19.
Just looking at that
20.
last shot, I think the top red of the two will pop to the right corner, which would of course free up the other one. We might play the cannon here though, actually, that you were speaking about, Clive. Yeah, that's very nice. 3 reds into play.
27.
And he could win the frame without worrying too much about the 2 that are on the cushion,
28.
because his lead would be, if he takes high value colours with them, more than 43 points.
$35. 36.
And he won't be playing the cannon unless he's absolutely got no alternative. We're playing on the loose one here. Whereas if he was behind, he would try and nudge them out.
$43. 44.
40 in front. Imperative to make sure of the black without any positional heroics.
One snooker to tie.
51.
Robertson, in other words, not out of the frame. I'm looking once again at the green and the pink, which we used earlier in the frame,
Joe
and now the
Perry,
blue and the
51.
brown where they are. I wouldn't say that this frame is his yet, but he's gone a long way to winning it and living in the match. 4 all, and we'll be in for a very exciting, if you like, best of 3. But like I say, not quite over yet. And I would say that Joe, if he had to, or he had the chance, would move that red that's underneath the black spot sooner rather than later.
Oh dear, oh dear. Perry nearly committed the unforgivable sin, going in off from an unsnookered position when your opponent needs a snooker.
Yeah, but he's lucky twice, wasn't he? Because even then, if he'd have left the red on, Neil could have got red, black, and got an easy snooker behind the black, or fairly easy. As I say, it's not quite over yet, unless he can cut this in. Then I suspect it will be. He can't cut it in. See, that's the point. There's a lot of snookering balls. I mean, the table could hardly be better for trying to get snookers. All those colours up the other end of the table. So there will be 1 or 2 warning signs going out for Joe. But I don't think it's over. I think it's over now. And this match, once again, proving to show a few twists and turns.
1.
Perry looks the stronger now, but Robertson is known to raise his game when he needs to.
Joe Perry was 4-2 down.
Joe Perry 8 and the frame.
But has won 2 frames in succession to level the match at 4 all.
Welcome back to this, the opening semi-final in the Champion of Champions. Joe Perry has just levelled the score after
Frame 9.
8 frames.
Joe
This
Perry
is now the
today.
9th. Commentary comes from Clive Everton and Neil Folds.
So after losing the last 2 frames, can Neil Robertson reassert himself?
Well, that tells me that he's certainly capable of it. It was a great long red. He used to move up a gear. There was that brilliant 144 break, but it's been a bit in and out in between that. There's another example. It's not perfect here. He's on this red, but he's having a little bit of a problem controlling the cue ball.
Nine.
Are either of the 2 reds right of picture possible? Just about. Though as it turned out, Robertson had got just enough angle
14.
to get on the red to the other corner.
15.
Very solid effort there going into the bunch. They haven't really split
22.
as well as the shot probably deserved. But he's on one to the middle, and it's just a question of putting it and controlling the cue ball to keep the break going, because it's quite thin.
This looks a natural cannon onto the pink.
Say it was, but of course for that
23.
reason he went low on the cue ball, take it wider. He's actually on the pink now. Don't know if the pink spot is free. The blue would be if it isn't. Yes, it'll go on there. Doesn't really get in the way of anything much either.
29.
Better off there than anywhere else.
.30.
All from a trademark Robertson long red.
That's the split he really wanted. Going to the bunch and the
37.
red comes back down as it did there. And
38.
whether he has mentally made his mind up to be more positive, but he seems to have gone up a gear. Just because Perry had got back from 2-2 to 4 each. 4-2 to 4 each, rather.
Sure. 45.
Well, Perry's done nothing wrong in this frame. He's just left a long red. So it needed a very good shot to get in.
46. .53. .54. .61.
That was a big surprise.
Neil Robertson, 61.
61 is not enough. He is just missing the odd ball that he can't really understand why, inexplicably.
One.
I don't know about the clearance here. There's a couple of awkward balls, but it's not much else than a couple. And if he lost this frame, goodness, how would he feel?
I'm certain Perry wasn't expecting another chance in this frame.
8.
It was just a basic red to corner that Robertson missed.
Nine. $16. 17. $24. 25.
Could pot the pink and play to move the red on the left hand side cushion, retaining position on the red in the middle of the table, but decided not to do that.
Yes, he's a bit short though, where he wanted to be. I guess if he'd have missed that red on the left, he
31.
might have drifted a bit too far down the table. But things do start to get more tougher from here on in.
$32.
Okay then, so much for the open reds.
I reckon that's as good as he could have played. Maybe not quite as firmly.
37.
But really, if he goes for this, it's a very difficult shot. So it's only 50-50 whether he does, I say.
Joe Perry, 37.
These pockets are playing tight down the rail, so I'm not surprised he didn't go for that. Robertson still 24 in front. The match has been in progress just over 3 hours. An easy opportunity here for Perry to snooker Robertson behind the pink.
Well, I think he tried to push it under the cushion, but it went a little too fast, and it's not an easy first red, this, but he'll have to play it.
Not very near, so here's a frame clinching chance for Robertson.
Needs both reds. He's got to be a little careful. Obviously, red doesn't pass the green, and that would be the pocket he'd choose from here if that wasn't there. So does he play on into the right middle? In the cue ball somewhere in the D? That's a possibility. There are other ways he can go. That'll do.
6. Seven.
Robertson was first in with 61 from a long red. He let Perry back in
10.
by missing unexpectedly, and the frame was in doubt for a while.
12.
But now Robertson, through potting the last two reds with colours plus the yellow, has put it beyond rescue.
15. 19. 24. Neil Robertson 24 on the frame.
Neil Robertson is one up with 2 to play. He leads Joe Perry by 5 frames to 4.
Welcome back. Robertson has just regained the lead by winning the 9th frame and is now just 1 away from a place in the final. Commentary from Clive Everton and Neil Folds.
The 10th frame, Neil Robertson to break.
Neil Robertson has never been behind this afternoon, but he's never been comfortably in front either. Twice he's led by 2 frames, 3-1 and 4-2. Joe Perry caught him at 4-all, but now Robertson is within a frame of victory at 5-4.
Well, that was a great shot. I didn't really have the easy up and down safety. I don't see too many better pots than this. Hand on the cushion rail. He has played well at long range today. That's the one part of his game that's been absolutely superb.
He's potted 16 long pots out of 19 attempts, which is very, very good.
Unfortunately, it wasn't a natural to go into that bunch of reds. Well, don't tell me he's discovered a plant that he knew nothing about. He's had a little look. Don't think anything's on there.
Neil Robertson 4.
If he'd have been with a bit more angle on that green, cue ball would have gone quicker into the reds. He had to force it an unnatural angle and didn't get that close to going into them, really.
Cue ball relatively near the ball cushion, so Perry can't generate any backspin. If he goes for this red, he's got to get it. And that's why he was always going to scatter the bunch.
I think the problem was the red actually came back into the bunch again, and the cue ball might have been embedded in them and safe otherwise. Well, Robertson is fully aware of the situation. He's at the table with a half chance or better. With one frame needed, it's in his own hands. Usually, when he sees the winning line, he doesn't really need a second invitation from here.
Robertson is usually a pretty good finisher of matches. Against Yan Bingtao in the quarterfinals, he was 4-1 up. That was reduced to 4-3, but he then played two very good frames to win 6-3.
Six. Seven.
Nice recovery, that.
$13. $14. $21. 22. $29. $30.
I think he would have liked to have gone a bit further than that. That's not so easy to hold for the next red, the one that's just below it. Played it well.
$35. $36.
The key moment of this frame is approaching, and that moment is what's going to happen when Robertson opens the bunch.
Yes, and when's he going to try? Not here. He might have played into them off one cushion if the red wasn't on the left rail there, because I'm not sure how he can get beyond that. So play on the other loose one. And as Clive said, those 6 reds all tied up need to be shifted if they're going to be potted.
41.
It's a handy lead already. And when you think about it, from 4-4, he has moved up a gear. He missed a bad red on 61 in the last frame, but nothing else to speak of. So that moment
42.
is with us into the bunch. If he lands on something and spreads them, then he's in the final. The
47.
only downside there is the other red that's stopped the black from going to the right corner. Otherwise, this next shot will be simple.
$48. $53. $54.
Developing 2 more reds out of that small cluster. Robertson closing in on victory, but he's still not quite there.
No, I think he could get on the right-hand red that we saw there on the, off the table. That one there, down below the pink. If you finish top side of where the blue is, he shaped up about there, I was trying to say. But there's other ways as well. Well, it's frame ball because there's 59 remaining when this red goes
59.
down. So I don't suppose he minds being where he is.
He's made the cut back and got the cue ball in and out of baulk for choice of low value colour.
Ramble. .64.
So Joe Perry has made a great effort this afternoon.
65.
He's played well, but he could never get his nose in front. The highlight of this afternoon,
72.
I guess, was Robertson's 144
73.
total clearance to lead 3-1. He also led 4-2. Perry fought back to 4-all. But Robertson has finished very strongly in these last two frames.
80. Robertson, 81.
And with that break of 81, Neil Robertson completes a 6-4 victory over Joe Perry to qualify for tomorrow's final.